So good day, viewers. Today we have a 2011 F-150. I believe it's a 11. Could be wrong, but I'll make sure. It's got 230,000 kilometers. Customer brought it in for a noise in the driveline, and they've conveniently left it with no fuel in the tank. That's nice when you need to take it for a road test. So I'm pulling out onto the highway here, and it's got a horrendous shudder in the driveline. Like the hanger bearing is gone or something. Notice the wiper blade vibrating. Wow. The noise diminishes on D-cell. On coast, it's back again. But on neutral, like with light throttle input, it's good. So I think the hanger bearing is gone or something has failed in the drive shaft. We're going to bring it back in. I'm afraid to drive this thing too far for running out of fuel or blowing up, one or the other. Well, this is a one-piece drive shaft, so there is no hanger bearing, but this is what I see. Wow. That pinion bearing is completely wiped out. Is this loose on here? It looks almost like it's loose on here. Well, we're going to pull the cover off the diff and have a look inside. It's leaking oil on the rear end. The pinion seal is leaking. You can see the oil on the floor. So there's probably not much oil in it. Let's have a look inside. Okay, so we got all the cover bolts out. Let's try and see if we can get a punch in here. Screwdriver in here. Look at the metal. Looks like graphite. Holy mackerel. Wow. Look at the sparklies. Wow. I wonder if the side bearings have lost the preload. Doesn't appear to be. But that can't be good for that crown and pinion running with that out of alignment like that. That pinion bearing is totally wiped out. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. When I turn it, the pinion's going up and down in there. Okay, well, I'm going to have to discuss this with the customer. So I've marked the drive shaft, but wow, that's bad. So I've got the wheels, brake calipers and rotors off, drive shaft disconnected. I've marked the caps here with 1 dot here, 1 dot here, 2 dots, 2 dots. And I'm loosening the differential lock pin bolt because we've got to pull the axle shafts out. It's 3/8. technically you're supposed to replace this bolt. Okay. And push the axles in. Oops. How come that didn't come in? Okay, that's one. That's two. I had a screwdriver to pry them apart. And I like to put the pin bolt back in so that the side gears don't fall out. This has got clutch plates, so if you allow this to turn and the axle side gears fall out, you'll be in a world of hurt because you'll have to compress those wave washers to get them out. Now we pull the axle shafts out, inspect the axle bearings. This one looks okay. This one looks okay. Normal wear on the bearing. And it looks like 3/4. We'll take the cap bolts out. The only thing that's going to save this rear end is if the pinion bearing races haven't spun. I got to get a pry bar. Holy shit. The bearing cap back on here loosely so this doesn't fall on the ground. And the selective shims on the side we don't want to mix up. Need a bigger pry bar. Well, definitely the side bearings haven't lost the preload, so that's good. Okay, this washer, put it over here, hanging on the brake caliper. Yeah, that's a little bit loose. I think he's been driving it like that for a little while. What do you think? Let's get that pinion out and inspect those pinion bearings. Well, we got the pinion out. The bearing race has not spun from what I can tell. Let's get this out of the way so I can knock that front pinion bearing out with the seal. There goes the seal, there goes the bearing, there goes the spacer. Actually, no, the spacer's on the pinion. Doesn't look that bad considering. Well, at least it didn't spin in the case, so let's knock the front pinion out. Let's have a look at this one. Oh yeah, I'd say that's gone. That's been making noise for some time. Look at all the steel in here. The locks out, C-locks out of here. Look at the steel in here. Wow, we're gonna have to wash this housing. Looks like sparkle dust. The girlfriend's gonna think I was at the strip club. Come in the house with all this sparkles on. Well, I think we can save it. I won't guarantee it's going to be quiet, considering that pinion's been running out of line for some time, but if it has a slight hum to it afterwards, I'll just tell him that he needs to get the words to the song, because if you don't know the words, you have to hum. Anyways, let's clean this housing up. So I've been cleaning out the housing with brake cleans and Varsol, and here's an old crank sensor, which is a magnet. You can see the metal that's in here. It's going to take a lot of cleaning to get this metal out. I'm going to put a neodymium magnet in the bottom of the diff afterwards, because it's impossible to get every little fragment out. Look at this. It would be bad if they didn't have this cavity down here. I find brake cleans works pretty good. I'm gonna have to use a couple of cans to rinse out the tubes, and then I use compressed air. Also, you got to get up inside here where the axle tubes meet the housing, because it tends to build up, especially on the right side. For some reason, I guess the oil flows across to the right side more, because there was a lot of debris on the right side. Oh, there's more up in there. Well, time to get the compressed air and get these pieces out of the way here. So there's the housing cleaned. No more metal particles, and you see I put a neodymium rectangular magnet in the bottom here. Don't have to glue it down, you can barely pull it off. It's an F150 magnet. I bought a few of them a few years ago, and that's the last one I have. So any kind of microscopic metal particles won't get past that magnet. Plus there's a magnet on the drain or on the fill plug as well, but it's nowhere near as strong. So we're going to start transferring bearings on this thing now. Yeah, I'd say that pinion bearing is definitely shot, both the front and the rear. The side bearings are actually pretty decent. They hadn't lost their preload, so that indicates they didn't have any significant wear. But we're going to put a bearing set in it. So this is the bearing kit, the rebuild kit that I've got, SKF. This is a 9 3/4 rear axle housing, or rear axle. So there's the two side bearings, pinion seal, crush sleeve, pinion nut, front pinion bearing, and rear pinion bearing. I pressed the pinion bearing off with a split flange, and I've recovered the shim, and we're going to reinstall the standard shim that's in there and press this bearing on. So I'm using an old bearing race and the press to press the new bearing on. Make sure you press it on with the tapered end facing like so, otherwise you'll have to press it off again and turn it around. That's it. Just using an old bearing race as a installer. So that's the pinion bearing installed. Again, this crown gear or this pinion gear is worn, I'm sure, from running out of True, but it's got to be quieter than it was. So there's the pinion installed. And the spec for the pinion bearing preload is 16 to 29. And I got 29. Yeah, 29. I use this as a holding fixture with a 3/4 inch torque, 3/4 inch ratchet. So now we press the bearings off the case. So there's the side bearings pulled off with a snap-on puller. Got to get a new jaw. This one's compromised. Anyways, I'm going to call it quits for today. I'll wash this up tomorrow, press the new bearings on, and reassemble the carrier. Yeah. So there's the carrier in pressure washed, and I'm pressing the bearings on using an old bearing race and a seal installer at the top. There we go. Just an old bearing race that fits. So we're ready to install the carrier in the housing. So I find if you install this bearing side and leave it loose about 1/2 inch out, that you can, I've got a piece of flat steel curved to tap the stem in. I'm going to put the cap on, making sure the marks are lined up. And then we'll pull the case in with the cap. Get a ratchet here. So gently pull the caps in. Some of the GM rear ends have a spreading tool. I actually have a spreading tool I bought last year, but this differential is not set up for it. It would have holes in here to put the spreading tool in. And I think that's pretty much bottomed. Yeah, the shims are installed. We'll look up the torque for these cap bolts. It's probably about 65 to 80 foot-pounds. There should be some backlash. Yep, there is. So the torque is 77 foot-pounds.
Now I reused the original shims, so I do have backlash there. I'm going to run a pattern and see what it looks like. That's gear oil. Not that it matters, because we're not going to change it if it is a poor pattern because of the potential wear on the crown and pinion because of it being out of alignment for so long. So I put gear marking compound on it, and I'm turning the carrier and holding resistance on the pinion. Kind of puts a load on this. Well, that's not bad. Center of the tooth on the drive side. Center of the tooth on the coast side. So we're going to ship it. Put new axle seals in, put the axles back in, fill it with gear oil. I've got a friction modifier to add to it as well. So installing a seal, including the pinion seal, I like to pack the garter spring area full of grease, because sometimes if you tap on this surface, the shock will cause the spring to jump off. Especially if you're not using a proper installer, which I don't have. A proper installer has a plastic insert that pushes the spring, puts tension on the spring. So I also put a little bead of Teflon sealant around the outside of the seal before I put it in. So there's the differential lock pin installed. I use a new lock pin, put Loctite on it. It's 22 foot-pounds. The C-locks are installed, the axle shafts are in. So now we clean up the cover and reseal the cover. You think there was some steel in that oil? Wow. So there's a diff cover installed, resealed, and clean up this surface of the flange. I cleaned it up before I put it on there, and this surface of the U-joint flange so that there's no run out. And of course I had center punched it here with 2 dots and 2 dots here. So we're going to put it back in the same place and Loctite the bolts. So the drive shaft flange bolts are 76 foot-pounds. I use this socket that I bought a few years ago. It works really well, especially for removing them. Doesn't want to focus. 12 millimeter. So we're on a road test now after repairing this rear end. I'm going to see if there's any kind of noise from it. Just drove 2 kilometers on a gravel road and it's quiet. Nice and smooth, no more vibration. I guess it was vibrating because the pinion angle was changing. Quiet as a church mouse. Well, it lives. Should be good for now. Thanks for watching.